All right. So far till yesterday, we have seen different topics from software testing, and especially we have discussed about levels of software testing, right? So what are the different levels of software testing? So first we have to start with the unit testing, and then integration testing, and after that system testing, and then UAT testing. All right, so these are the four different levels of testing. So levels means one after another. First unit testing will be conducted, and then integration testing, and then system testing and user acceptance testing. And unit testing and integration testings are white box testing techniques, because developers will conduct those testings at code level. And system testing and UAT testing are comes under black box testing techniques. So we black box testing techniques, and we don't need to know the coding part. So we will just test the functionality of the application with respect to customer requirements. That is system testing and UAT testing. Okay. So as a tester, we are going to involve more on system testing. So here all comes under the system testing, and black box testers. We can say black box testers. Okay. But initially, we don't need to know any programming to test the software according to customer requirement. But what exactly we have to know is the customer requirement. So what exactly customer is expecting from the application, that we have to know. So for that, what we have to do is we have to read the documentation. So we have to read the requirements thoroughly. So people will, they will provide the requirement FRS document or SRS document, like functional requirement document or software requirement document. So we have to read the document thoroughly, and each and every functionality we have to understand clearly. And then we have to know exact what are the flows are there, or what are the navigations we have to do in our application. That's the most important area which we have to concentrate on. Okay. And then we can do the system testing. And even system testing also, we are going to do a lot of activities as a tester. So first we need to understand the requirement, then we have to prepare the test plan, then we have to write our test cases, then we have to execute our test cases, finding the defects, reporting the defects, and test execution report we have to prepare. So a lot of things will be involved in the system testing phase. Okay. So that is a exact area where the testers or actual testers are involved, right? And today we are going to learn about especially system testing, because that is the exact area where we have to mainly focus on. So what is system testing? Again, what are the different type of testings we will conduct as part of the system testing? Okay, that we are going to learn thoroughly. So first we have to learn what are those testings exactly we have to conduct, and later we will see how we can do them practically. Okay. So first theoretically we have to understand what exactly it is. So let us start with system testing. Okay. So let me just share a small presentation, and we'll go through that. So system testing. So basically the system testing, what is system testing means? The system testing is nothing but we are going to test the overall functionality of the application. So overall functionality of the application with respect to customer requirement. And when we have to conduct system testing, after completion of integration testing, we will conduct system testing. And there is separate environment we will have, that is QA environment or QC environment or testing environment. We have to set up our own environment where we will conduct the system testing. And it is not a developer environment. And the second thing is, in that environment, we can exactly replicate the hardware and software requirement. So exactly customer is using some environment, right? So customer is using some kind of machines or some kind of software in their environment. And the same kind of environment we are replicating in our company. In that environment, we are going to test our software. Okay. So system testing is nothing but the testing the system. Testing the system is nothing but a software, a product or application. We are going to test according to customer requirement. Okay. So in the system testing, we are mainly focusing on four different areas, right? So one is GUI testing, graphical user interface testing, and we can also call it as a GUI testing. Second is one usability testing, and the third one is a functional testing and a non-functional testing. So these are the four categories: GUI testing, usability testing, functional testing, and non-functional testing. So these are the four categories which we need to focus on while performing the system testing. Okay. So now we will discuss each and every testing and what you have to do, what you have to test. So let us concentrate on them. And again, in these four categories, we are mainly focusing on functional testing part. Okay. Because functional testing, usability, and GUI testing. So non-functional is again the huge kind of testing. Like there is a separate environment required, separate skill set is required, like performance testing, security testing. So these testings are comes under non-functional, and there is separate skill set is required to perform non-functional testing. Okay, we need also separate environment. Normal testing environment doesn't support that. Okay, so we will discuss what exactly they are. So first, let us start with GUI testing. So what is GUI testing means? Graphical user interface. GUI is nothing but a graphical user interface. So whenever you use some application, so what is a where exactly you are interacting with? You are interacting with the UI. So you will browse some application, okay, and then you will get some screen. What you can see on the screen, you will see some text boxes, radio buttons, check boxes, drop downs, and also you will see some text and scroll bars. So these are all the different things you can see on the UI. So they are basically called as a elements are nothing but the objects, we can say objects. So here our main focusing on the UI of the application, that is basically called as a UI. So every application or every software is having two different parts. One is called as front end, the other one is called back end. So what is front end means? The user will always interact with the application through front end, and actual operations will be done at the back end. As a user, I cannot see anything what exactly happening in the back end. So for example, you log in into internet banking application, right? As a your user valid username and valid password. So once you log in into your application, you will able to see all your information, your account details, balance, and everything. But where exactly the data is coming from? So that exactly the data is stored in somewhere in the servers or in their database, the banking databases. From there, you are getting the data and which is presenting on the UI, and then you will able to see the data. So that is a front end part. So wherever the user is interacting with the application, that is basically called as a front end part. But actual operation, actual data will be stored at the back end. Okay. Even the testing also can be done in two different ways, front end and back end testing. So here GUI testing is mainly focusing on the front end part, the UI part, where we can interact with the application. Okay. So graphical user interface testing or GUI testing is a process of testing the user interface of an application. So testing a process of user interface of an application. So GUI testing is a process of testing the user interface of the application. A graphical user interface includes, as I said before, the elements like menus, checkboxes, buttons, colors, fonts, sizes, different icons or content or images. So all these things we are going to test as part of GUI testing. So our main focusing on the UI part, not exactly the functionality. Okay, not exactly the functionality. Functionality is nothing but a little different again. Functionality is nothing but the working process. But here we are checking the elements what are there in our application. Okay, so this is simply called GUI testing. So testing the UI of the application. Our main focus is on the UI of the application. Now what exactly we test as part of UI testing? So here I have put some items what exactly we have to test as part of UI. So this is basically called as a GUI testing checklist. So before testing the application, after understanding the requirement, you prepare some kind of checklist. Normally we prepare this in the Excel file, and uh, and then we will check actually each and every item we have already tested or not in the application. We will check it. So these are all GUI testing checklist. We can say checklist. So let us see what exactly it is there in the checklist. So what we have to cover as part of the GUI testing of the application. So here our main focusing on look and feel of the application, how application looks, how it is attractive. Because if the application is more attractive, right, so then only the users will attract with the application, and it should have a good number of colors and a good font and good images, and images should be very clarity, right? Very clear images should be there. So our main focusing on the UI of the application. So let us see what exactly we do in GUI testing checklist. So testing the size, position, width, height of the elements. So size, position, width, and height of the element. If I say some element, let us say I have a small image. Okay, I have logo. Let us say logo or image. Something is placed on my UI, and even it is a text box, or it is a text area box, or it is a drop down. Whatever element you have in your UI, every element is having some size, a position where exactly that element is placed, and width of the element, height of the element should be verified. So that is one option. But from where we will get this information, how we will know? Because we have to compare with the actual requirement, right? So we also have the design documents. According to functional requirement document, we should also keep the design documents. And in the design document, exactly they will specify in the UI level, they will give you something called wireframes. So wireframes are nothing but the dummy screens. So before developing the application, they will draw the pictures of the screen. Okay, they are just like a mock pictures. We can say mock pictures, wireframes. This is a technical term is wireframes. And by seeing those pictures, they will also give the actual size, position, width, and height of those elements. So by seeing them, we prepare some test cases, and then we can compare exactly the size, position, width, the height of the elements in the application. Okay, that is the input for us. So we should not decide our own. Okay, so size, position, width, height, everything should be part of the document, and accordingly we have to test it. And the next one is testing of the error messages that are getting displayed. So testing the error messages that are getting displayed. So whenever you do some kind of invalid actions, suppose there is a text box, and the text box is allowing 8 characters. The text box is allowing 8 characters, for example, username or something. And if you're entering more than 8 characters, right? Or if you're entering some special characters in that box, and your that element or that UI should able to display the error message, that it should intimate you, like the text box will not allow you more than 8 characters. So those type of messages we have to validate in the UI part. That is error messages, and testing the different sections of the screen. So when I say screen of the UI, there are different sections. Logo will be in one section, and elements or will be in one section. In the bottom of the section, there will be footer and header section. Okay, so all these things we need to verify. And testing of the font, whether it is readable or not. So in some applications, we cannot read the font properly, and that should be readable. And as a user, I should be able to understand the font. And when I say font, again, the type of the font we have to check, and the size of the font also we have to check. Like headings should be in some font, in some size, and the body of the text, body of the page should be having some size or some kind of text. And some text should be appear in the different color, like links and everything will appear in different color. So these things we have to verify. And the next one is testing of the screen in different resolutions with the help of zooming and zooming out. So normally when I open the screens, we can zoom in and zoom out. We can maximize the page, like we can zoom in like 100%, 150%, or 200%. Even our web UI also, we can increase the size of the UI. And also we can zoom out. We can compress the UI. In both the cases, the elements or the images, whatever is placed on the UI, should not be overlapped. So wherever, in whichever position they are, after zooming and zoom out also, the element should be there in the same position and should not be overlapped. That means what? Sometimes what happen if the UI is not properly designed, when I zoom in and zoom out, the elements will be overlapped. On one element, the other element will be replaced, or we cannot see the another element. So that should not happen. So that is basically we have to focus on the different resolutions we have to check. And testing the alignment of the text and other elements like icons, buttons, etc. in proper place or not. So sometimes we see some text messages, and also some icons will be placed on the UI and buttons. So these elements should be properly placed on the UI and exact position in whichever position we are expecting, they are there in the same position. For example, so as per the requirement, login screen will be placed on the right side of the screen and top of the screen, top right side of the screen. But a developer places the same login screen and top right left side of the screen. Even that also we can consider as a mismatch or bug. So according to the requirement, wherever we are expecting that element should be there, it should be there in the same position, and that also will be considered as part of the testing. Okay. And then testing the colors of the font. Okay, this is also another important thing because colors will attract the users, so we have to use proper colors. Okay, and most of the times, so we should avoid the red and some colors which are very very for our eyes it is not it is dangerous colors. Okay, we should not avoid such type of colors. And our web page looks very cool and clean, and that type of fonts we have to check. And this is also part of the design and what kind of colors they have to use. And the normal text will be there in one color, and the links will be in the different color, and headings will be in different color. So we have to focus on colors of the font also. And testing whether the image has good clarity or not. So sometimes images will be placed on the UI, especially logos, right? So those images should have a clarity. So those images will be taken with high pixels. So the clarity of images should be there, and images should not be like blur and everything. So images will be very very clear. And testing the alignment of images, even the images alignment also we have to verify, so exactly where the images are placed, that also we need to verify according to the requirement and design. Testing of the spelling and spelling mistakes we have to verify. So there will be some text, and we should also focus on all the text is properly written without spelling mistakes. That also we have to verify as part of UI testing. The user must not get frustrated while using the system interface. As I said, the first interface is the UI where exactly user will use it. So user should get attracted with the application. So you should not frustrated by seeing the font or by seeing the colors and by seeing the sizes and font and everything. So the first priority will be given to the UI because the user will interact with the UI. If UI is very ugly, right, next time you will not use that UI. So it should be very clear and cool fonts will be used. So that you have to make sure while testing the UI. And the next one is testing whether the interface is attractive or not. Interface is nothing but again UI. So that should be very attractive. Testing of the scroll bars according to the size of the page. Sometimes if your page is very small and if your page is having a small content, the scroll bars will not appear. So as soon as you are increasing the content on the web page, the scroll bars will come like horizontal scroll bar or vertical scroll bar. So once you're scrolling the page bottom or up, you can see the all the content on the web page. So here we are going to test the scrolls are properly working or not. So according to the size of the page, okay, that is one of the important thing. And testing of the disabled fields, if any. Testing the disabled fields. What is disable and enable means? Suppose a text box is there, and in that text box, it is a disabled. So disable means what? We cannot enter any data into the text box. Suppose let us say name field is there. In the name field, we have to provide some our name. So if the text box is a disabled state, we cannot provide the name. So testing the disabled fields, especially we have to test, and this comes under GUI, and sometimes it comes under functional also. So object properties we are going to verify. In the next, testing the size of the images. This is also discussed. Whenever you place some image, the size is also image. The size is also most important, and what kind of size it is, how much size it is, we have to verify. And the size in the sense, two things, guys. Size in the sense, the appearance, how much width and how much length it is. That is a one size. Another context is a size means like 1 KB or 2 KB or 10 KB or MB. This is the actual size. Okay. And images should not have the huge size, guys. Okay, if you have a 100 MB image, because while browsing the web pages or while browsing the applications, the loading will be very very slow, the performance will be impacted. So you always make sure the images is having less size. At the same time, the image should be very very clear. Okay, these two things we have to mainly focus on. So images should not have the big size. So that's the reason even while testing the images, the requirement will be very limited. Like you have to make sure the images is 10 KB size. Even you may experience this while uploading some images in some applications online, they'll restrict. You cannot upload images beyond that particular size. They will restrict that. So we have to verify that. Testing of the headings, whether it is properly aligned or not. So normally headings will be there in the starting of the page or right side or left side of the page, and that should be in the bigger size. So we have to verify that. Testing of the color of the hyperlink, especially we have to take care of the hyperlinks. What is a hyperlink means? Link, when I click on the hyperlink, which will navigate to some other page. So before clicking on the link, it should appear in one color. After clicking on the link, it turn into different color. So I think you may observe this kind of behavior. So while Google it will show different fonts, different links. So once you click on, initially it will show in the blue color with underline. And once you click on the link, and it will go to some other page. And again, if you come back and see the link, the color will be changed. Previously, it will be one color. After clicking on the link, it will change another color, because that color is basically saying the link is already clicked. Okay. So that hyperlinks also we need to verify color of the hyperlinks. And finally, we have to test the UI elements like buttons. Our main focusing on the elements, guys. Buttons, and buttons are properly displayed or not, the text which is properly displaying on the button or not, and text boxes, text area. So what is the difference between text box and text area? In the text box, we can just provide a small text. When as a text area, we can pass huge text like address of the addresses and everything. It contains a lot of things. Check boxes. Check boxes means what? We can select only one checkbox like female or male, something like this. Like radio buttons also will be there, but at a time we can select only one radio button. Checkbox in the sense we can select multiple checkboxes. Drop downs, we can select the options from existing options, like countries drop down is there. I can select one of the country from the drop down, like that. Links, so these are all comes under the UI elements. So in the GUI testing, our main intention is on UI elements. Our main intention is on UI elements. Okay, these are all the different things we have to test as part of GUI testing. And to perform the GUI testing, first we have to prepare the checklist like this, and then we will test it and update the checklist. In that case, you no need to miss, you don't miss anything. Okay. And the element sizes, colors of the font, size of the font, type of the font, everything will be mentioned in the design documents, where you will get some mock screens also. And elements also will be drawn on the screen, some dummy or mock screens, because by the time the application will not be ready. So by seeing the document, by seeing the wireframes, by seeing the mock screens, only you can understand the UI. So you can just imagine how the UI will be after development by seeing the document before itself. Okay, so all the sizes will be mentioned in the customer requirement, not exactly in the customer requirement. Customer requirement says the functionality, how application behaves, and after that designers will prepare the document like low level design, high level design, and UI document also will be there. Sometimes there you can find everything. So you will definitely get some inputs. Okay, without depending on other, without getting inputs, you cannot do yourself testing. Okay, so a lot of things we have to consider while doing the testing. You need proper inputs. That is very very important. Until unless you get the complete input or complete information, you should not start your testing. Okay. All right, so you should not assume the functionality yourself, guys. Okay, this is a biggest mistake. You should not assume the functionality yourself. You have to refer the documents, you have to refer the design document, and you have to write the test cases for them, and you have to review with the team, and everybody will see your test cases, everybody will review your test cases, and product managers, designers, developers, they will approve your test cases. What you have written, they exactly see. Okay, and then you will start the testing and execution part. So we'll see in the comment session in detail how we have to write the test cases and everything. Okay, so this is all about GUI testing, guys. Graphical user interface testing. This is the first testing we are going to focus while performing the system testing. Now the second important testing is usability testing. This is also very simple. Usability testing, in we don't have many number of testings in this. The usability means like easiness of the application. Easiness, suppose if you provide some application, some software to the user, you should able to use that easy manner, right? You should not feel like it is a very complex, like that. So you should feel the easiness from your application. So that is basically called as the usability. So especially in the usability testing, what you will focus is helping documents. So every application or every software, you may see something called help menu will be there at the corner. So why we are providing that help menu? Suppose if the user is stuck somewhere or user is not able to do something, he can refer the help menu, right? He can go to the help and type the questions, he will get the answer, and then he can do the actions. So that is a kind of help we are providing to the application, and that we have to verify. So whether our software or product is providing the help to the customer or user or not, that we have to verify as part of usability testing, and which is also called as context sensitive help. Context sensitive help testing. So context sensitive help means wherever we have stuck in our application, immediately we should get the help. So for example, even on the Windows also, if you want to do something, if you press F1 or F2 function key, it will give you help menu. And whatever the question you type, it will show you related answers. That is a context sensitive help. So every application or every software must provide the help to the customer. And even if you buy some products, right, you will get the user manual. So why we are getting the user manual? Because it contains the functionality, how the application works, how we have to work with the application. So before using the product, we will read the manual, user manual, because we will get the understanding, we will get the knowledge, like how we can use that application or the product. Same thing here. So whenever the software is providing to the customer or delivering to the customer, we have to prepare the user manual, and each and every step, each and everything should be mentioned in the document. As a user point of view, I should able to understand the document. It should be very simple English, and everybody, even non-technical people also should able to understand by reading the document, and they should able to work on the application by taking help of from the documentation without depending on any other technical people. So that is comes under the usability testing. So during this testing, we validates application is providing context sensitive help or uh, context sensitive help documents to the user. So normally the help will be part of your application, sometimes in the form of help menu, and sometimes if you don't provide help menu, you will provide the user manuals also in the form of PDFs, right? And then the user can read the document and they can proceed further. So that is comes on the usability. So usability means what? Easiness of the application. So as a user, I should feel comfort, I should be comfortable with the application. Everything should seems very simple and easy. That's the main intention of usability testing. And here the main role is in the developer. So developer can make it complex or developer can make it simple also, but our responsibility is we need to test whether it is easy or not. Okay, if somewhere if you feel something is not comfortable to read or not comfortable to understand, seems a little complex, we can again request the developer to simplify that. So sometimes what happens is some flows will be put in one page itself in the document, instead of putting 10-15 steps in one single shot in one single page. You can split them into multiple pieces, then user can understand simply. Okay, it's easy to understand. So don't should not things make complex, instead of we have to make them simple. So that is the main intention. We have to focus on usability testing. And here, these are developer responsibility mainly will be there. Okay, this is usability testing. And then functional testing. So this is the exact where we have to focus main. Usability testing, GUI testing also we will do as part of system testing. And apart from this, we mainly focusing on functional testing. So now let us discuss in detail what is functional testing. Again, the functional testing is having different type of testings, different type of areas we have to concentrate on. Okay. So first let us start with what is functionality. Before understanding functional testing, let us understand what is functionality. So functionality is nothing but the behavior of the application. Behavior of the application, how application or how the software or how the product is behaving, whether it is working according to customer requirement or not. That is functionality. So for example, if you take a Gmail application, so in login is one functionality, composing email is one functionality. So after composing email, that should come under send box, that is one functionality. After deleting the email, that should comes under deleted items, so that is one functionality. Okay. And while composing the email, you should able to add multiple recipients in the CC or BCC. So that is one functionality. So if I take any application, there will be some functionalities, and we are going to test those functionality. Here our main intention is, our focus is not on the UI elements. Our focus is on the functionality of the elements. So simple example, guys. GUI testing, suppose when I have a text box, okay, in the GUI testing, what you will do is the text box is properly aligned or not, size of the text box, width of the text box, length of the text box, right? So this is we are going to focus, and where exactly the text box is placed. Okay, this is we are going to focus as part of GUI testing. So once you come to the functionality, we are going to test more on that, whether which is accepting the characters properly or not. There will be some validations we have to do. For example, there is a username text box. In the username text box, as part of the requirement, what they say is username allowed only 8 characters, more than 8 characters, and those characters should start with uppercase character. It should contain some special symbol. It should contain one number. So that is our requirement. And accordingly, we prepare some test data, and we are verifying that text box is allowing this type of data or not according to the requirement. So that is a functionality. Here we are not checking the UI, we are testing the functionality of that element. Okay. So a small difference here we need to understand. So in the system testing, we have functional testing. Functionality is nothing but the behavior of the application, and functional testing talks about how your feature should work, how your feature should work according to the customer requirement. So that is our main intention to perform the functional testing. So the functionality is nothing but behavior of application. So interviews people will ask, what is functionality? So most of the people cannot answer. We know the term, but we should also know what exactly meaning of functional. Functional is something it should work according to requirement. That is functionality. So as part of the functional testing, like what kind of testings we have to conduct, where exactly we have to focus. So the first one is object properties testing, then database testing, error testing or error handling testing, calculations or manipulations testing, links existence, links execution, cookies and sessions. If it is a web application, we have to also test cookies and sessions. These are all different items which we have to verify or test as part of functional testing. Now let us discuss again each and every one. First, object properties testing. So what is object properties testing? So let me just open the whiteboard. Just a moment. So object properties. What is an object? That we have to understand first. Okay, what is a object? Object is a something, an element. So on the web UI, whatever we can see like button, text box, drop down, images, logos, text, everything is an element. Everything is an object. Okay, everything is an object. So in object properties testing, what we have to verify is every element on the web page is having certain number of properties. Every object on the page or every element on the web page is having certain number of properties. So what is that property? So for example, let us say a small text box I have. Let us say I have a small text box like this on my UR application. So what are the properties of this text box? So the properties are the text box can be enabled and the text box can be disabled. Enable or disable means what? If the text box is enabled, then I can provide the text in it. I can type the text in it if it is an enabled state. If my text box is the disabled state, I cannot enter any text on that element. These are the attributes, we can say properties or attributes. So enable or disable. Okay, and similarly, if there are radio buttons, there's a female radio button, there's a male radio button. So what are the properties of these elements? At a time we can select only one radio button, either male or we can select female, and this is a radio buttons group. We can select only one radio button at a time. So that is a property, enabled or not, disabled or not. Okay, and if I select male radio button, female will be disabled. When I select a female radio button, male button will be disabled. Similarly, drop down. So let us say take some drop down menu. So in the drop down menu, there are multiple items will be there. If I click on this, it will show you different options here. But at a time, I can select only one option in this. There are, let us say, list of countries are there. Let us say this is my country drop down. In the country drop down, I can select only one country at a time. And we cannot select multiple countries here. So that is a property of the drop down, whether it is selecting one element at a time or not. That we have to verify. Sometimes we have a combo boxes or list boxes. In that case, we can select multiple. So here also we have a multiple elements will be displayed. And here we can select more than one element. Here it will display all the element. So these are all different properties, enabled or not, disabled or not, and focused. For example, let us say I have username and password box. Let us say this is my login screen. So as soon as I enter the username here, immediately our cursor goes to the second text box and waiting for the password. This is called as a focus attribute or focus property. As soon as we enter the text, immediately our cursor will go and waiting here to accept another input. So these kind of things we have to verify. Okay, properties of the element. So every property, whatever you can see on the page, is having certain number of properties, and those properties we have to verify as part of object properties testing. Object properties testing. That's the first thing. So verifying the properties of the object. Let me write the notes also. So here mainly I'm focusing on functionality testing. In the functionality testing, the first one is object properties coverage. Object properties testing. In the object properties testing, what you will do is verify or check the properties of objects present on the application. So example, enable state and disable or not, visible or not, okay, visible or not, and focused or not, etc. So these are all comes under the properties of the objects. The first testing under functionality testing. The second testing we have under functionality is database testing. So this is another major area we have to test. So here you need to know some SQL knowledge. Okay, you need to know some basic SQL commands, which are very, very important. Okay, so again, the database testing is itself is a huge kind of testing, guys. It is not a simple testing. And here, as a functional tester, we can do some basic database testing like functionality level. But internally, we have to do a lot of testings under database testing. So we have a separate or different skill set is required to perform the database testing. So I'll tell you what exactly we test on the database. Okay. So what is the database? Database is a storage area where exactly the data will be stored. That comes under the backend part. So we can also say this is a backend testing. So the database testing, or we can say which is a backend testing, database or backend testing. So what exactly we do in the database or backend testing is there are a lot of things are involved here, but as a tester, initially we'll mainly focusing on the DML operations. DML operations are working fine or not. DML, data manipulation language. I'll tell you what is exactly it is. DML operations. Okay. Normally when I say data, so when I say database, let me tell you what exactly it is. So every software or every application is having two different layer, guys. As I said before, front end and back end. So back end is nothing but a database where exactly data will be stored, and we are browsing the data from the UI. Okay. Now in the database testing, we are mainly focusing on the back end. That is our database. So for example, let us say this is my UI of the application. Okay, this is my GUI or UI of the application, user interface of the application. User is always interact here. And at the back end, we also have something called database. This will be located somewhere in the remote locations. And this is my database. And actual data will be stored in the database. Now, whatever we are browsing here from the UI will send to the database, and we are getting the data from the database. But as a user, I cannot see the database. So in the database testing, we are mainly focusing on this particular component. And now in the database testing also, there are two things. Black box and white box is also there. We can say functional and non-functional. So for example, as a tester, as a functional tester, what you will do is, here on the UI side, you will perform certain operations like inserting the data or submitting the data and updating the data or deleting the data or selecting the data. So these are the basic DML operations. We can say data manipulation language operations. When I do these kind of operations from the UI, those operations are properly working at the database level or not. That we are going to verify as part of database testing at the beginning level. So actual data will be stored in the form of tables, guys. Okay, in the database we have a different tables. Like I'm browsing the employees data. For example, I want to add a new employee in my database through UI. So where exactly that employee details will be stored? In the employee table. There will be table, and inside the data, inside the table, the data will be stored. And suppose I want to get the details of the employee on the UI, and I will send the employee ID to the database through UI, and I'll get back the data from this table. And I want to update the details of the employee. So I can get the data from the table and update the data and again resend it. Or I want to delete the record from the table. So I can simply perform the delete action, and that record will be going to delete from the table. So these operations we are going to perform from the UI, and whenever you do some actions or operations, and the database tables will be affected. So when I submit the data will be inserted in the table. When I update the data will be updated or modified. Or when I delete the data will be deleted from the table. Or when I retrieve the data or when I select the data is coming from the table and present on the UI. So these are the basic operations are working or not. We are going to test as part of database testing. They are called DML operations in the database language. So data manipulation language. So I say data manipulation language. So these are all set of commands will be there in the SQL. Insert command, update command, delete command, select command. So we are going to use those commands to perform this testing. So how we will perform this database testing? We try to submit the data here from the UI. Then we log in into the database and browsing the data from the table. And here, so we work on the UI. At the same time, we also work on the backend. That is the database side. So here we will try to insert the data by using insert command and log into the database and check the table contains the data or not. Data is inserted properly or not. Similarly, we'll update the data from the UI and then again log into the database and check the table data which is updated properly or not. Same, try to delete the record from the UI and again log into the database and check the particular record is deleted from the table or not. So basically what is our intention here is whatever operations we are doing from the UI that are affecting the table on the database or not. The communication between the UI and the database is working fine or not. That we are going to test as part of database testing. Okay. As a beginner, apart from this, there are a lot of things we need to test. But as a functional tester, as a beginner, we are going to mainly focusing on DML operations, data manipulation language. What are they? Insert, update, delete, and select. So these are the main operations which we are going to test as part of DML operations, whether insertion is properly working or not, update is working properly or not, delete is working properly or not, selection of the data is working properly or not. So this is all about database testing. And one more thing, in the database testing, we are sending the data or updating, deleting the data from the UI. Okay, so this is one testing. And the other side, what we are doing, we are logging into the database and here we are executing certain number of queries, SQL queries, to retrieve or to see the data from the table. So what exactly we are doing is from the UI, we are doing the black box testing because we don't know the coding here. We're just sending the data. And the backend side, we are logging into the database and we are writing some queries here, SQL statements to check this data. And that comes under the white box part, white box testing area. Because here directly we are working with the table. We have to know exactly what is there in the table. So this is comes under the white box. So the database testing includes white box and black box. So combinedly we can say which is a gray box testing technique. Gray box testing technique. So previously we have discussed about black box testing and white box testing. So black box testing is what? We don't know exactly what is there inside of the application. We have just test the application UI or functionality of the application. That is black box testing. And what is white box testing? We have to test the logic of the application, like internal code of the application. And that is a white box testing. But here what exactly we are doing from the UI, we are sending the transaction, we are doing some transactions, that is comes under black box. And from the database, while writing the queries or statements, we are checking the data in the table. That is comes under the white box. So here we are doing the combination of white box and black box. So which is basically called as gray box testing. Okay, whenever you do the combination of black box and white box, which is called as gray box testing, which is called as gray box testing. So in interview, people may ask, can you give some example of gray box testing? Or do you have something called gray box testing? Yes, we have something called gray box testing. Database testing is one of the example of the gray box testing, because we do black box testing. We also do white box testing there by writing the queries internally and checking the data in the tables. Okay, so this is all about database. Initial level, as a functional tester, we have to do this much. But apart from this, there are a lot of other things will be also tested. But there is a dedicated skill set should be there to perform in detail database testing. But what else we can test as part of this? Apart from this, what else we can test in the database? So that is again comes under the white box testing, guys. Okay. And in the database, if you exactly perform the database testing, not only these operations, we are also going to focus on other things. Okay. So yes, as a tester, you have to know the SQL. That is a mandatory skills everybody should have. Okay. If you go for interview also, people will ask you write some SQL statements. Very, very important. At least the basic commands you have to know. How to write insert statement, update statement, delete, select, these queries you have to know. Okay. Right. So now
Apart from this, what else we can test on the database? What else we can test on the database? There are a lot of things, guys. So in the database, what we are going to test is, we are going to test the table level validations, like how many columns we have in the table, and what kind of data we can insert in the table, and the size of the column, and number of rows are available, number of fields are available, and there are multiple tables we have sometimes. So whatever data we are submitting from the UI, that can be stored in the multiple tables. Like let us say this is my EMP table, this is my department table. So the connection between there, the relation between there in the tables. So even that relationship also we have to verify, the relationship between the tables. And also we are going to verify something called functions and procedures, triggers. There are a lot of other concepts we have in the database. So all these things we have to verify. So again, if you want to verify these things, you need to know in depth of SQL and PL SQL, like procedure language. Even SQL also we have a language called PL SQL, procedure language SQL. So if you know in-depth knowledge of SQL and PL SQL, you can perform the database testing. Okay, so apart from these DML operations, internally in the tables or in the database, we have to test a lot of things. So not only tables, sometimes there is a views, indexes also we have to verify. Okay, and cursors will be there. So these are all database related concepts, guys. Okay, once you learn the SQL part, you will know about these things. Okay, so as part of database testing, initially from the UI, we are verifying this. Apart from this, we are also going to test, but this is again job of database tester. If you have a skill set of database or SQL, you should also can perform the database testing. Or sometimes the people will recruit a specific skill set guy, so he is a specialist in the database. Okay, they can perform the database testing. So what exactly we do in the database testing is table level validations, like column type. So what is a column type? The data type of the column means some column, suppose employee name, I have to enter the table, so employee name should be character type of data. And I want to enter date of birth of the employee, I want to enter the salary of the employee, that is a numeric column. Okay, so whenever you enter some data in the table, the type of the data should be there. So what is the column type? And length column length, for example, so when I enter some employee name in the table, the employee name accepted only 15 to 20 characters, it cannot accept more than that character. If the requirement like this, we have to test that. So column length, okay, column length we have to verify, column type, column length, and then number of columns in a table, number of columns in a table. So these are all comes under the table level validation, table and column level validation, column level validations. So after that, relation between the tables, relation between the tables. So here we have some concept called normalization. So this concept will be used in the database. And also we verify the functions which are written in the database, procedures which are written in the database, procedures which are written in the database. And also we verify the triggers, and also we verify the indexes, views, verify the views. Okay, and these are few important things which we have to focus while performing the in detail database testing. So this is all again comes under the white box testing part, guys. Okay, so over is database designers or database developers, they can perform these testings. Or if they want to recruit a specific guy who is having database skill set, then he can perform the database testing. But normally the functional testers, whatever the testings we are doing here, those testers are mainly focusing on few operations like DML operations properly working or not from the UI, from the UI to table. So that is the exact area where we have to conduct the database testing. Okay, so this is again huge concept. Okay, so database testing itself is a huge concept. There are a lot of things we have to test, and a separate or different skill set people are required to perform the database testing. And this is also comes under functional testing. And in the database, some part is comes under functional, and some part is comes under non-functional also, and some part is comes under white box testing. So here, especially what are the items we talk here comes under white box testing. So we have to know the in-depth knowledge of SQL, and how to know, we have to know how to write SQL statement, how to write the SQL programs and everything. Okay, this is a one of the testing we have to conduct as part of function testing. So what is a database testing means? The database testing checking database operations with respective DML operation, with respective UI operations, or like I say with respect to user operations. So whatever operations we are doing from the UI, they are affecting the database or not, we are going to verify. So that is a database testing. Now, next let's move on to the error handling testing. So what is error handling testing? So error handling testing means where we have to mainly focusing on error messages. Error messages. Example, suppose you are working something on UI. When you do some invalid action, or when you do some incorrect action or incorrect operation on the UI, then what happens? Our application should display some message. Okay, so your application should display something, some message to the user. So you have done so and so mistake, or you have done incorrectly, something like this. When you do incorrect actions, and error messages should be displayed on the UI. Otherwise, user don't know exactly what is went wrong, what is the mistake he had done. So error message is also most important while testing the application. So here our main focusing on verifying the errors on the UI, verifying the error messages on the UI. Okay, so that is error handling testing. So in during error handling testing, we are verifying the, let me write the notes, error handling testing. So here we are checking error handling testing. Tester verify the error messages while performing incorrect actions on the application, in the application. So this is exactly error handling testing means. Okay, and tester verify the error messages while performing incorrect actions or application. And one more important thing, sometimes your application will display the error when you perform some incorrect action, but the error messages should be readable, should be understandable, and it should be in the simple language. Okay, that is also we have to check. So error messages should be, errors should be readable, should be readable, and in simple language, or we can say user understandable language, user understandable language. So these are the things we have to make sure while testing the error handling testing. So whenever you do some incorrect actions on the UI or application, our application will display some messages, error messages, and those messages should be readable and easy to understand by the user. So these things we have to take care of error handling testing. And next, these things also part of the requirement, guys. Okay, what kind of error should display on the web page? And you should not assume the error message. So again, requirement says if you do this action, you should get this kind of error, like this. Suppose, simple example I'll tell you guys. So for example, let us say I have a small login screen like this, right? So in the login screen, observe this, I have a username field, and also I have a password field. And here I have to enter username, here I have to enter the password. Okay, so as a user, what I have done is I have entered some invalid username and some valid password. Okay, password anyway it will not show you here, it will just show stars like this, right? So I have provided some invalid username. Suppose application is displayed some message like this, let's say incorrect data. For example, it displays something like this. This is also error message. It is saying incorrect data. And the other message is displayed invalid user. So which one is relevant and which one is easy to understand? So when I say incorrect data, when I pass the username is invalid, the error message is giving as a incorrect data. So when I read this message, I don't know exactly which one is a incorrect. Whether I enter the invalid username or incorrect username, or when I enter the incorrect password. I don't know exactly by reading this message. But if you specify more generic, like invalid user, specifically I'm saying here. So by reading this message, okay, so I have entered the invalid user or incorrect user. So this is a more relevant than this one, right? So the error messages are more specific and it should not create any confusion for the user. So those things we have to make sure while performing the error handling testing. Okay, the messages displayed on the UI is also very, very important. And those messages are more specific to the error. And after reading the message, user should able to rectify the error. User is able to provide proper data. So that is a main thing which we have to focus while performing error handling testing. Okay. So the next one is calculations and manipulations testing. Calculations or manipulations testing. So let us understand what exactly it is. Calculations or manipulations testing, right? So now calculations or manipulations testing. So what exactly calculations or manipulation testing means? Sometimes your application is having certain number of calculations, especially financial applications and banking applications. There will be some calculations will be there, and those calculations are properly working or not, we are going to verify. So for example, simple example, let us take a banking application. So in the banking application, you have some total balance. So you have some total balance, some amount. Okay. So let's say something called, let's say 50,000. Okay. Some balance is there. So after sending money to some other person, you have sent some money, let's say 20,000. You have transferred 20,000 to some other guy. And after sending this data, and it should detect this amount from the total amount, and then it should display proper balance 30,000. This is a simple calculation, and these type of calculations are properly working or not, we have to verify. So that is simply calculations testing. So wherever you can see some calculations, those should work properly. And when I perform the calculations testing, we have to test the calculation with valid and invalid data also. So for example, I have a simple calculator. Let us say I have a simple calculator like this. And I have something called, this is my one box, this is my another box. Here I have to enter number one. Okay. And here I have to enter number two. So I say I have one button called add. Okay. This is my button. So when I enter some number here, let's say 2 comma 5, when I click on add, it should display a result here, 7. So this is a calculation is basically it is doing. So while testing this, we have to mainly focusing on the data. Okay. Like it should able to do the operation, all kinds of data. For example, these two numbers are positive numbers. So it is giving properly. When I give negative numbers like this, minus 2, 5. So what exactly it is displaying? When I giving the zeros and what it is giving. And when I give both are plus, both are positive, then how the result is getting. And when I give both are minus values, then how it is giving. And small numbers and big numbers, how this application is working, irrespective of calculations. So that we have to verify. So these are the things mainly we concentrate on uh, calculations or manipulations testing. Mainly we are going to test the calculations part. Calculations, calculations or manipulations testing. So here our main focusing on the calculations are working or not. So here tester should check the tester should verify the calculations, okay, with respect to again requirement, calculations are working properly or not. Okay, so this is all about calculations and manipulation testing. So wherever you see some kind of calculations, they are properly working or not with the different sets of data, so that you have to verify. So the next one is links existence and links execution. So last two, these two are especially related to web applications, guys. Okay, so if you are working with mobile applications or desktop applications, and these two are not applicable. But if you are especially working with web applications, we have to concentrate on these two things. Okay, let us see what is exactly links existence, links execution. So normally in the web application, you can see some links. Okay, you can see some links, and where exactly the links are placed. Okay, few things we have to focus here. So when I perform the links verification, existence, so where exactly the links are placed. So this is basically called as links existence. Links existence, where exactly the links are placed according to the document. And links existence and links execution. So when I perform the click action on the link, whether it is navigating to proper page or not, that is links execution. Okay, so here we are verifying links are navigating to proper page or not. So this is we are verifying links execution. Links execution. And there are three types of links will be there, guys. So one is internal links, and external links, and broken links. Okay, there are three kinds of links we can see on the web pages. So what exactly these links means? Internal link means when I click on the link, which will navigate to the same page, in the same page in the different section. Still we are in the same page, but it will jump to the another section on the same page. That link is called as an internal link. External link means what? When I click on the link, which will give you another page or which will navigate to some other page, that is external link. Broken links means what? The link will be there, but it doesn't have any action. So when I press on the links or when I click on the link, which will not navigate to anywhere else, it doesn't have any target page. Those links are called broken links. So sometimes developers will place the broken links also for future purpose. In future, if they want to implement some other pages, those links also they have to keep in the current web page. So for future implementation, they will also add broken links sometimes on the web page. Okay, so these links we have to verify. So whether the links are exist or not properly, and they are placed correctly or not, and the links are internal links, external links, and broken links, and whether they are working or not, the links are executing properly or not. When I click on the link, whether it is navigating to other pages or not. So that is called links execution. Okay, so here links existence and links execution we have to focus on, especially for web applications. So another thing, when you come to the GUI testing, where also we are verifying the links, but what exactly we are verifying as part of the GUI testing? The link color, where exactly pasted the link, and color of the link, that we are going to test. And also when I click on the link, whether the color is changing properly or not, we are verifying as part of GUI testing. But here what you are verifying, where exactly placed, link existence, whether the links are placed or not, first of all. And if the links are placed, then those links are working fine or not, executing or not. While clicking on the link, whether it is providing the next page or not. So that we are going to verify as part of this testing. And one last one is cookies and sessions. Cookies and sessions. In the cookies and sessions also, will be done only for web applications. So first let us understand what is cookie, what is session, and then we will see what is cookies and sessions testing. So when you're working with the web-based application, let me just start with the cookies. And everybody will know about this, but they don't know the terminology exactly. What is cookie and what is session? So when you working with some application on through internet, okay, so you are browsing some page here, something called .com. Okay, you are browsing some page and you are getting the details on the web page. So from where we are getting the data here? From somewhere, some backend server. Through internet, you are getting the data and displaying in the UI. So this is your UI, and browser you are using to see the data. So browser is acting as an interpreter here. Browsing as a browser like Internet Explorer, Chrome or whatever. The browser is basically intermediate. So that will be that will present the data to the user. So actual data will be there in the server side, and this data we are browsing through our browser, through internet. So when you do this activity, sometimes what happens is our browser is intelligent enough to save the data. For example, you are having some application and you have to log into the application. So you provided your username and password. And once you provided that, you done some action. Okay, you have successfully logged in and you are doing some actions. After completion of the actions, and without clicking on logout, you just close that page. Okay, without clicking on logout, you just close that page. Then what happens is your browser will remember the data. So I think uh, everybody is faced this kind of situation. Whenever you're browsing some pages, right? Suppose even if you're working on Amazon or Flipkart or somewhere online portals or e-commerce applications, you are browsing for some products. Whatever products you're interested, you're browsing for those products. After closing the page also, sometime after some time, if you're opening any other web pages, the same kind of products will be shown at the side of the page. It's kind of advertisements. So why only those products are displaying again and again on your pages? Because your browser is already saved the cookies, saved that information. It remembers the information what you have browsed in the form of cookies. So what is cookies? Nothing but cookies are files or temporary files which are created by the browser while you browsing the data through internet. Okay, so cookies are the files which are created by the browser. And what cookies contains the data. And until unless we deleted, cookies still be there. Okay, so what are cookies? Cookies are the temporary files. So cookies are the temporary files created by browser while browsing the pages through internet. Okay, so cookies are the temporary files which are created by the browser while browsing the pages through internet. So one more example I'll give you. I think you may observe this situation. So when you log into your Gmail or Yahoo, first time you provide username and password and you successfully log in. After login, without clicking on logout, just close that page. After that, after 1 or 2 seconds, after 1 or 2 minutes, again open the same Gmail application, and it will not ask you to provide username and password again. It will directly log in into your Gmail box. So why it is happen like this? Because your browser is remember the cookies information. Sometimes you will see one checkbox, remember your password, remember username. When I select the checkbox, the cookies will remember that information sometimes. Okay, so that is an example. So temporary files created by the browsers while browsing the pages through internet, they are basically called as a cookies. So in this testing, what you will do is whether the browser is saving the cookies or not, browser is creating the cookies or not for that application, is basically called as cookies testing. Especially we do this testing only for web applications. Okay, and then next one is a sessions. What is session? Basically, cookies are related to the browser. From the client side will be created. So wherever we are using the application, from wherever you are browsing the data, from where exactly in that area, cookies will be created on the browser itself. But sessions will be created on the server side. Sessions will be created on the server side. What exactly sessions means? So again, I'm giving one more example here. What are the session means? See this, I'm taking the same example again. I have a Gmail application, for example. Let us say this is my Gmail application. I successfully log in into my Gmail. Okay. And after successfully logging into my Gmail, don't do any activity there. Just leave it as it is for 1 minute or 2 minutes like this without doing any actions. So after 2 minutes or 3 minutes, again you try to perform some activity on the Gmail. Then again it will ask you your username and password. So especially you may observe this for banking applications. So internet banking applications, once you provided your username and password, it will successfully log in. After successful login, if I don't do any action, after few minutes or after few seconds, your session will be expired. You will get some message called session will be expired. What does that mean? Whenever you open some application, the time slot will be created. Okay, the time slot will start here at the server side. Okay, time slot will be started. As soon as you are working on the application, this will be open. But once you stop working on the application, then it will count how many seconds it is inactive or how many seconds it is it is not active, and it will wait for a few seconds. Then immediately it will close the session, automatically close the session. Then again, if you try to the login, if you again try to do some action, again it will ask the login or it will show you session is expired. Why this is happening? Because this particular application is having session mechanism in the server side. So whenever you start browsing that application, it will create a small timestamp, and you keep on working on the application, still it is open. But as soon as you stop working on the application after 1 or 2 minutes, then the session will be expired because time slot is over. And this kind of mechanism is implemented for security mechanism, guys. Okay, for providing the security of the application, this kind of mechanism is provided. So these are called as a sessions. So session is a basically it's a time slot which will be created for your transaction or which will be created for your activity which is doing from the front end application. Okay, so how we will test these sessions? We have just browse application and don't do anything, sit for a few minutes or few seconds ideal, then again try to do some actions, and it should give session is expired message, or it should ask again username and password. Okay, this way we can verify the sessions, especially web based applications, not for every applications. Okay, so this is a cookies and sessions. So now what are the cookies and what are the sessions? Cookies are the temporary files created by the browser while browsing the pages through internet, whereas sessions are time slots created by the server, and session will be expired after some time if you are idle for some time. Okay, so this is all about sessions concept, guys. An interview, people may ask, so what is cookie, what is session, how we are going to test them? Cookies and sessions. Okay, cookies are the temporary files which are created by the browser at the client side while browsing the pages, and sessions are the time slot which are created by the server which we cannot see that. So sessions will be expired after some time. If you don't do any activity or if your machine is idle for some time, then immediately your session will be expired. So we are also going to test cookies and sessions as part of functional testing, So as part of functional testing, what are the testing you have done? Object properties testing, database testing, error handling testing, calculations or manipulations testing, links and cookies and sessions. Are you guys clear so far, everyone? Now let us quickly move on to the another type of testing, non-functional testing. Non-functional testing. So far, we have seen the functional testing. What is functional testing? What is the main focus on functional testing is the behavior of the application. Like what is the requirement, how requirement is working properly or not, according to the customer requirement, our application is working or not. So that is comes under the functionality, means a feature of the application we have tested. That comes under the functional testing. So after functional testing is done, then non-functional testing will start. Okay, because once the functionality is a stable, then functional non-functional testing will be conducted. So once the functionality is a stable, then non-functional testings will be conducted. Then what is non-functional testing? So once the application functionality is stable, then we do non-functional testing, and it is mainly focusing on the customer expectation. It is not focused on customer requirement. It is focused on customer expectation. What is the difference? What is the difference between customer requirement and customer expectation? For example, let us take one application which contains some features. Let us say banking application. In the banking application, what is the requirement, what is the customer requirement, and what is the customer expectation? It's a small difference you need to understand, guys. Okay, requirement is a different, expectation is different. So when I take a banking application which contains some functionality, like login is one functionality, fund transfer, check balance, right? So these are all requirements. These are all customer requirements. So while performing functional testing, we are mainly focusing on these requirements, whether requirements are working properly or not. That is one aspect. Now, non-functional is nothing but a customer expectation. What is customer expectation? Okay, requirements are working fine, but when I try to use that application, performance is very, very low. I'm not getting the pages quickly, or my application is not that much secure. Another people are also able to access my data. Okay, it should not happen like this, okay? That is the expectation. My application should work on different environments. That is my expectation. My application should respond very faster. That is my expectation. My application should be safe from the unauthorized users or hackers. That is my expectation as a user. Now you understood the difference between requirement and expectation. Requirement is nothing but some feature to be there in the application, and expectation is nothing but as a user, how I'm expecting the application, how my application should work. Okay, it should save from the hackers, it should quickly respond, and my application should be able to install in multiple environments. These are all my expectations. Okay, so functional testing mainly focusing on the requirement of the customer. Non-functional testing is mainly focusing on the expectation from the customer. After functionality is stable, after functionality is stable, then non-functional testing will be conducted as per customer expectation. So the main focus is on performance testing, security testing, how much load it is able to accept. Suppose there is an application, web application, and if 10 people are browsing that application at the same time, perfectly working. Suddenly I increase the load, 100 people are accessing the application at the same time, immediately application is gone down, it's completely broken. That is not the customer expectation, right? Even though number of people are increasing, our application should be stable and everybody should be able to access the application with the same speed. That is our customer expectation. So non-functional testing mainly focusing on the performance, load, trust testing, security testing, all these aspects. Non-functional, they are not functional. But when we have to conduct this testing, after functional testing is done, once the functionality is stable, then we conduct non-functional testing. Remember this. Okay, so as part of non-functional testing, the first testing we are going to focus is on performance testing. And as said before, non-functional testings are not that much easy, guys. Non-functional testings required a special skill set people. Okay. Normally in the organizations, functional testing people will be different and non-functional people will be different because they are having their own environment. The performance testing, to conduct performance testing, they have a dedicated environment there. They should maintain high volume servers, high capacity machines, and high load, like 5 machines, 10 machines, like that. Even in the security testing also, there is dedicated people will be there. They are having special skill set because they are trying to hack that application and they're trying to test the application by using security testing tools. There's a different kind of skill set is needed. So non-functional testing is not that much easy. So there is special kind of people are required and special kind of environment is required to perform non-functional testing. Okay. So now let us understand what are the testing we have to conduct as part of non-functional. First thing, performance testing. What is performance means? Simple understanding. What is performance? Speed of the application. How well my application is responding when I access that application with multiple number of people. So performance is nothing but a speed of the application. Okay, I say non-functional testing. Non-functional testing. In the non-functional, the main first thing is a performance. Performance is nothing but what? Speed of the application. Speed of the application. So how well our application is responding for my request, that is called as a performance. So in the performance testing, there are mainly 3 testings we will conduct. One is called load testing, and stress testing, and then volume testing. Let us try to understand what exactly they are. Load testing, stress testing, volume testing. So these 3 testings comes under performance testing. Okay, these 3 testings comes under performance testing. So what exactly they are? Load, stress, and volume. Let us try to understand with some example. Give me a second. Okay, so first, load testing. What is load testing means? Let us say my application is installed on my server machine, because most of them web applications, and most of them, guys, performance testing will be done only for web applications. Okay, remember, if it is a desktop applications, we no need to do that because desktop application will be installed on your local machines. Speed always will be there, so no need to test them. If it is a web-based applications, we mostly prefer performance testing. So let us I have a server machine here. Okay, this is my server. Server means what? Where exactly the application is installed. Now I'm accessing that application through my browser. Let us say this is my browser. Okay, this is my browser, and here I'm accessing. So here one user is sitting and accessing the application. So he will send some request to the server. He will get the result from the server, or he will get the response from the server. He's browsing something and he's displaying some pages which are coming from the server. So in the load testing, what we will do is we will slowly increase the number of users, like 1 user, next to 2 users, next to 3 users, 4th user, and till certain number of users. Okay, till certain number of users, we will increase the load slowly, incremental level, and then we verifying the response time, how well the application is responding, how much speed it is. And if you have 1 user, how the speed it is, how well it is responding, what is the speed of the application. And if you have 2 people, 3, 4, 500 people are accessing the same application at the same time, then what is the speed of the application? So that we are going to verify. That is comes under load testing. So load testing means what? Increasing the load on the application. Increasing the load. Load is nothing but multiple members. So increasing the load on the application slowly, not exactly 100 users or 200 users. Okay, slowly in incremental part, or slowly we can say, increasing the load on the application slowly, then check the speed of the application, speed of the application. So here again you have some performance requirement. You need to know that requirement. Customer says, like initially customer will tell you, like I have these many number of people are accessing my application at the same time. So you have to also conduct load testing with this number of people. That is our requirement. So customer says 100 people, then we have to test our application with 100 requests, 100 different requests. But again, we cannot replicate 100 members in the real environment. Okay, again we will use certain number of tools, load testing or performance testing tools. So those tools will create virtual users. So actually we are not replicating the physical users. Suppose customer is said 100 people are trying to access my application in my organization, but with 100 people, how we can test, how we can replicate that environment in companies really? So we cannot, right? 100 people we cannot, 100 machines we cannot keep in the setup. So we have a certain tools which are there, and by using those tools we can create a virtual users, number of users, and then we can hit the request to the server. So that is again comes under the performance and load testing. So those people will know about those tools like load runner, JMeter. So these tools will be used, and without setting up n number of machines, without setting up n number of people, still we can do the performance testing by using those tools. Okay. So load testing, gradually increasing the load. We can use this term, gradually increasing the load on the application, then check the speed of the application. That is comes under the load testing, right? And while testing it, we have to check, is there any chances to break that application? So sometimes what happens is, for one user, two user, 10 users working fine, after reaching 20, 30, 50 users, immediately slowly it slowed down the application. And after that, after sometimes what happens is, once you reach 100, application server will be down, you will not able to access the application. So where exactly it is breaking down, that is benchmark that we have to check. Okay. Or if you are breaking the application very frequently, again we have to ask the developer to improve the performance of application. Okay. So that is a load testing. So load testing means gradually increase the size of the people, then check the speed of the application. Okay. And they use certain number of parameters, guys. Here performance testing metrics will be there, like response time, throughput, process time. So by using those metrics, they will calculate the performance. Okay, that is a load testing. Now the stress testing. Stress. What is stress testing? So people will feel both are same, but they are not exactly the same. A small difference is there. In the load testing, what you will do is gradually increasing the load. But here we suddenly increase the load, not gradually. Suddenly we increase the load. Okay, suddenly increase or decrease the load. Increase or decrease the load on the application. And check the speed of the application. And somewhere it is broken or not, that we have to verify. So in the load testing, we are gradually increasing the load on the application and check the speed of application. Gradually increase in load is not what first to one number, 5 members, 10 members, 20, 30, 50, 100. That is gradually increasing the load. But in the stress testing, what you will do is, first will start with the 5 members, suddenly increase 50 members, then see the speed and whether the application is broken or not, and suddenly reduce to 20 and again suddenly increase to 100. This is a common scenario, every time will happen in the internet, guys. So whenever like Amazon or Flipkart or Snapdeal, some online portals, right, e-commerce applications announce some offers, at that time number of people will access application at the same time, suddenly the server will goes down. You may see these kind of issues. So why it is happened? Because suddenly increasing the load, or after completion of those offers and everything, then suddenly decrease the load, right? So this is a stress testing means suddenly we increase the load and suddenly we decrease the load. in those situations, how our application is responding. Okay, if the server is one server or two servers are not enough, we increase multiple number of servers. And in every server, we place the application. If one server is down because of higher load, then another server will take the request and process the request. So this is again alternative, the setup in the companies. So stress testing is nothing but like this. In the load testing, we gradually increase the size of the load and test the speed of application. But in the stress testing, we not gradually, we increase the size and suddenly we decrease the size with a large number of load. Then we test the stability of the application, how it is stable and where exactly it is broken. So that we are going to test as part of stress testing. Okay, load testing and stress testing. Now, what is the volume testing? This is also comes under performance. Volume is nothing but a size. How much data our application able to handle? That is a volume testing. For example, let us say I have an application. This is my web application and this is my database. And actually whatever the data we are passing through application will be stored in the database. Okay, this is there are n number of tables will be there and data will be stored in the databases. So here in this application, normally we send the data. Okay, so a lot of people are accessing the applications and a lot of people are sending some data. While browsing or sending the data, how much data is able to handle, because there should be some limit, right? And how much data the application is able to handle. Okay, so here it is, he is sending 10 records, he is sending 10 records, he is sending 100 records. All these records is able to fit in the database or not. If it is not there, it will throw an error, or sometimes it will go down if data is very huge. Okay, so in that case we will verify the volume testing. Volume means how much data our application is able to handle, how much data our application is able to handle, how much capabilities, that we have to verify as part of volume testing. So here verify, check how much data is able to handle by the application. How much data, check how much data is able to handle by the application. That is called as volume testing. So load testing, stress and volume testing comes under performance testing. So performance is nothing but a speed of the application. Okay, so are you guys clear? Performance testing, load, stress and volume. Right, so the next type of testing is security testing. So rest of them are very simple. Let me just go through security testing. So what is security testing? How well our application is providing the security. So because when you are trying to access your application through online, there must be some security, especially banking and financial applications. There are more sensitive data will be there. So security must be there. So security testing, basically we are verifying how secure our application we are going to test. In the security testing, we are verifying how secure our application. And few things we have to verify. Suppose, so valid user. So there are two things we have to verify, guys. Here, mainly, even security testing also very huge kind of testing like database or performance. Even security testing is a separate skill set. There are dedicated people or team will be there to perform the security testing. And there are different type of security testing tools also available. Okay, hacking tools also available like pen testing, okay, and vulnerability testing. So there are different type of testings will be conducted as part of secure testing, and especially this is the testing done by the specialist, okay, not by normal testers. So in the security testing, we are mainly focusing on authentication, authorization. So let us understand this. So what is authentication? Authentication, authorization, or we can say access control. These are the two terms which we have to understand, guys. Okay, authorization, authentication, authorization, we have to mainly focus here. So in authentication, what we have to verify is the valid users able to access the application or not. Here we are just verifying the users are valid or not. Users are valid or not. The users who are accessing the application or we are using that applications are valid or not. That is authentication. So if it is a valid, we will allow them to access the application. If they are not valid, we should not allow them to do the actions on the application. That is authentication. Simply login is an example. Authentication. Authorization is different. Authorization access control. So what is authorization access control means? Suppose if the user is valid, then he can do certain things on the application, but not everything. He will not able to access everything on the application. Some things he can access. For example, again, let us take a simple banking application. So let us say I have a big bank like this. In the bank, there are multiple departments are there. Let's say I have account department, have admin department, okay, and I have something called investment department or retail department. Different departments are there. So as a user, and all these functionalities are provided in one application, one banking application. So as a user, I'm able to log into the application. That is authentication. If I'm valid user, I'm able to log into application. That is authentication. Once authentication is done, if the user is valid, this particular user is belongs to some department. Suppose he belongs to account department, he should able to access the features from only account department. That is authorization. He will able to access only a feature from that particular department. Similarly, he belongs to admin department, he is able to access everything because he is an admin. And if he belongs to investment department, he can access only feature from investment department. That is called access control, authorization. So authentication means whether user is valid or authorized or unauthorized, we are going to verify. But in authorized access control, what you will verify is we are verifying the permissions of the valid user. Permissions of the valid user we are going to verify, and what are the features he is able to access, that we are going to verify. That is part of authorization or access control. So these two are comes under security testing. Apart from this, in the database testing, we do only DML operations and rest of the things will be taken care by database testers. Similarly, the basic things like authentication, authorization, access control, we will take this, we will test them. But rest of the in detail testing like hacking and everything, data communication and protocols level testing, they do a lot of things in the security testing. So these will be done by the security testing specialist. Okay, there will be a dedicated team will be there and they will take care of security testing part. Okay, this is one of the non-functional testing. And then recovery testing and compatibility. Recovery testing, recovery testing. So what is recovery testing? Recovery means what? If I lost something, again I should get back. That is it, meaning of recovery, right? If I lost something, suppose I'm typing some data, immediately it is deleted, so I should again get back. That is recovery. In your machine, if you deleted some file, it will go to recycle bin. Again, you can get back, you can restore the file. That is a recovery mechanism. So in the recovery testing, what you will do is whether your application is recovering the data or not, your application is having a recovery feature or not, that you have to verify. So recovery testing, if you do some mistake or if you by mistake you lose the data or by mistake you have done some incorrect transaction or incorrect thing, you should be able to recover that. Okay, that is comes under recovery testing. So for example, in the Gmail application, you are composing some mail, you already composed half of the email subject. Immediately your system is got shut down, or suppose immediately your browser is got closed or internet connection is got closed, disconnected. Then what happens? Your composed email, right, that will not go on, actually it will not go anywhere. So once you log into the Gmail again, that mail will be saved in the draft section. So you will be seeing one folder called draft. So whatever the mail you already composed earlier, that will be already there in the draft section. That is called recovery mechanism. Okay. So in the recovery testing, we are going to test our application is providing the recovery mechanism or not. So that is called recovery testing. Okay. So recovery checks the system. This is actual definition, guys. Check the system change to abnormal to normal. This is a technical terminology which you have to use, guys. So recovery testing means, suppose we are working on some application. So this is my application we are currently working on. Suddenly it goes down, and this is a normal state. Okay, we are working on with the application in the normal state. As soon as something is got happen, suppose browser is closed, net connection is closed, or system is shut down, immediately what happened, the same application will go to abnormal situation, abnormal state. Now after again come back the environment, again it should come to the normal state, normal to abnormal, abnormal to normal. So this is called as a recovery mechanism. So whether your application is providing the recovery or not, so that you have to test. As I said, an example of Gmail, same thing. Okay, so that is a recovery testing. The next one is a compatibility testing. Compatibility means what? Your application should be compatible with different environments. And again, here there are three compatibilities will be there. Let me write here. Compatibility testing. So there are few number of compatibilities are there. What are the compatibility testing? So compatibility testing here, software compatibility. Okay, sorry. Forward compatibility and backward compatibility, hardware compatibility. So these are the three kinds of compatibilities we have. So forward, backward, and hardware compatibilities. So what exactly it is? Let us try to understand. Compatibility. So here, suppose when I developing a software, right, we release some version. Let us say today I develop one software, okay, and which is, let's say, 1.1 version, and which is installed on some machine. This software is installed on my computer. Okay, this is working on my computer well, perfectly fine. So tomorrow the same software is upgraded. Now I got 1.2 version. So this particular software, when I installed, it should able to compatible with the old version. That means when I try to upgrade the old version to new version, it should able to upgrade successfully without giving any issues. That is a compatibility between the versions of the software. As I said, forward and backward compatibility. So this is called forward compatibility. So our software, whatever the software newly we are getting, the new version should able to upgrade. The old software will able to upgrade with the new software. If we want to upgrade, there should be some compatibility. Okay, so this is forward compatibility. And suppose this software is installed in Windows, let's say 2010. Okay, this is my mission. And the new software, whatever version we are getting, that also should be able to install on the same machine, same configuration. That is compatibility. And forward compatibility. And backward compatibility. Backward compatibility means what? Suppose the 1.1 version, 1.2 version is installed on 2010. This is a new machine I have. And tomorrow I got one more software called 1.3 version. And the same software will able to install on same 2010, even though we have a new version like this. So this is called backward compatibility. Forward and backward compatibility means whatever the new versions are coming, their softwares are able to upgrade the existing software. and the software which are already there, they are also compatible with the new versions. So this is basically comes under forward and backward compatibility with the older versions and new versions of software. And this is basically comes under software compatibility, forward and backward compatibility. Apart from this, we also have something called hardware compatibility. So in hardware compatibility, we are verifying our application is able to install on multiple hardware environments. Like customer says, like in our organization, in our environment, so and so RAM size, so and so machines, and hard disk size is this one. They will tell some configuration. So our software should be able to install on that environment, on that requirement, and should be able to work. That is hardware compatibility. So this is also called as configuration testing, hardware compatibility testing. That means our software is working on multiple hardware platforms or not. It supports Windows or not. It supports Linux or not. It supports Unix or not. Okay, and it is working with 4 GB RAM or not, whether it is working 8 GB RAM or not. So this is hardware compatibility, and our software is able to install on 1 MB hard disk or not, 2 MB hard disk or not. So this is basically hardware compatibility, configuration testing. And then another testing is installation testing. After that, we have installation testing. Installation testing is very simple. Just we have to test the installation process. Installation testing. Okay, so installation testing, we have to just test the installation process, like each and every screen is properly coming or not. When I click on the next, each screen is properly navigating or not. Screens are very easy to understanding or not. So that we are going to verify. So installation testing, we have to check screens are clear to understand or not. Okay, and simple or not, and the installation should not be very complex. Even single easy user or non-technical guys also should be able to install the software. Simple or not, we have to verify. Apart from this, we should also verify the uninstallation process. When I uninstall the software, it should remove all the files from that related to that software. So when I try to uninstall the software, sometimes what happens is some files will be left in the machine itself. And because of that reason, what happens? Again, if you try to install the software, it will say already files are exist. You cannot install again. So you should avoid those conditions. So during uninstallation testing, we should check all the files which are belongs to that software or deleting or not. That we have to verify as part of uninstallation testing. So here, check the screens are clear to understand, and screens navigations, how screens are navigating. Okay, these things we have to verify as part of installation testing. And the last one is sanitation or garbage testing. Sanitation and garbage testing. So understand this. In interview, people will ask you one question. Suppose if your application or software is providing some extra functionality which is not there in your requirement. Okay, so as per the requirement, a software is designed, all the features are perfectly working, but apart from this, there are some extra functionality which is available in our application which is doesn't required by the customer. So would you consider that as a bug or not? So that is an interview question. So would you consider as a bug or not? Yes, that is also we consider as a bug. So whatever application or software we developed according to the customer requirement, it should have only those requirements. It should not have any extra functionality. Okay, if there is any extra functionality, we have to raise a bug and we have to ask the developer to remove that functionality or feature from the application. That is called as a garbage testing. We have to remove unwanted stuff from our software. That is called as sanitation and garbage testing. This is the last one. Sanitation and garbage testing. So sanitation or garbage. So if any application provides extra features or functionality, Okay, if any application provides extra features or functionality, then we consider them as bug. Okay, so this is a comes under garbage testing. We have to test whether application is providing some extra functionality or not. So that is comes under sanitation or garbage testing. Okay, so these are all comes under non-functional testing. So after completion of functional testing, we conduct non-functional testings: performance, security, recovery, compatibility, configuration, installation, finally sanitation or garbage testing. Okay, so non-functional testings will be conducted by the specialist. Normal testers or functional testers cannot be done. So there is separate environment is required, separate skill set is required to perform the non-functional testings. Okay, so we are again mainly focusing on GUI testing, usability testing, functional testing. And non-functional testing, each testing is very huge. Security testing is a huge kind of testing. Lot of tools are there in the market. Even performance testing is also different. And we can conduct recovery testing, compatibility, configuration, installation. These testings we can conduct. Okay, so this is all about system testing types. So we have discussed about different type of system testings: GUI testing, usability testing, functional testing, non-functional testing. Finally, let us understand the differences. Okay, maybe in interview people will ask you, what is the difference between functional and non-functional testing? So we already discussed, let me just summarize the points. So functional testing, we validate the functionality of the software, whereas in non-functional testing, we verify performance, security, reliability of the software. And in functional testing mainly describes what software does, but non-functionality describe how software works, customer expectation. Okay, here customer requirement, so concentrate on user requirement, but here non-functional testing concentrate on user expectation. And functional testing takes place before non-functional testing, and non-functional testing will be performed after finishing of the functional testing. So these are the differences between functional and non-functional testing. Okay, so that's it guys. So these are all system testing types. So with this we have almost completed the theoretical part. Okay, so from the next session we are going to discuss how we can conduct these testings, what are the techniques are available, and also we will see some more different testing terminologies, and then we will proceed further. Okay, so now I'm stopping here to the session, and if you have any queries you can